we streaming now? Yep. Thank y'all so much again for coming out. This is our third community forum, and we are just excited to be able to share with the community from knowledgeable people. They're not making up no stuff. They know what it is they are talking about. So just really straight off the bat, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm Renee West. I worship here at Denby Church of Christ, part of the We Care team. But just right off the bat, I just want to say thank you up front to Officer Valerie Young again for being with us, and Attorney Gates. Thank you so, so much. So they're going to, it won't be any PowerPoint or anything tonight. They're going to talk to us. And I imagine we'll have some questions in between. But so first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a master police officer, or are you higher than that now?
No, I wish I was, but no.
Okay, I'm going to introduce Master Police Officer Valerie Young, and then after she gets done sharing, then I'll come back up, kind of like a station break, and introduce Attorney Gates. Valerie Young is a Master Police Officer and 30-plus year veteran of the Newport News Police Department. MPO Young's husband is also a Master Police Officer, and both of their children are employed by the City of Newport News. How long have they been working there?
No, actually, my son now is employed by Clark County, Nevada.
Oh, ooh, okay, wonderful. Wonderful, great, wonderful. MPO Young is currently serving as a Community Relations Officer in the Community Youth and Outreach Division. Has that changed? I got this online. All your stuff is online for those of y'all that don't know it, it's online. MPO Valerie Young recently received an award from the Crime Prevention Center for Training and Services. MPO Young was certified as having achieved the title of Law Enforcement Crime Prevention through Environmental Design Practitioner. Girl, you are doing some stuff. Amazing. Yeah, it's online. And she is just a wealth of information. I'm already thinking past this event to the next event because she's put some things in my head. And when you put things in my head, you know, they tend to roll around. And then I call Lynn, and I call Sue, and I call the rest of the We Care team, and then we do stuff. So without any further ado, MPO Young, please come forward. Thank you.
Thanks.
Get mic'd up, girlfriend.
That's no problem. Bear with me while we're switching for a second here. Let's see, let's put this. Hopefully I will not click it. Will that work? Good. Okay. Yeah. I'll put this up here for right now. I may start walking around. Many of you who saw me last time, you know, I'm still recovering from a heart attack, doing better because now I can walk around and stand and everything else, feeling a lot better. But I did, you can see I'm very accident prone, so hopefully we'll be all right with things. When we were talking, one of the things that we were mentioning and talking about was a lot of people have questions about what to do when you're stopped by the police. So I've got these pamphlets. If we didn't get one to everybody, I'll make sure before I leave that we will. I will leave some here when I leave also for any church members that may want to have a copy of it so they can have it, okay? One of the things I will let you know is this, is that when we stop somebody, we can't just turn around and if I see a car and you're driving a red car and I don't like red cars, I can't just pull your car over because you're in a red car, okay? I have to have a reason to stop you. Now, some people will say, what are some reasons I can stop you for? Well, one major reason is, not to be funny, but everybody's favorite thing. How many times have we seen people texting while they're driving? Yeah. Okay? No matter where you're going, I've seen people using their legs driving because they're too busy on the phone. Don't know what I'm talking about, okay? So that is a law violation, okay? And people are getting pretty bold and brazen now. They don't care if you see them or not. They keep on doing it. And we have seen an increase in accidents because of this. I mean, every time we turn around, you know, you're driving somewhere, whether it's Newport News or Hampton, we see almost an accident every corner now, don't we? Doesn't it seem like it? And it doesn't matter whether it's like what they call like the commute time, you know, people going to work or people, it's any time during the day and everything. And I will tell you this, it's not just the younger drivers. You know, a lot of people are blaming it all on the younger people. I've seen people even my age, same thing, on that phone. You know, people learning about Facebook. Oh, got to check Facebook real quick. The light's red. Let me check it real quick. And just for a moment, they start seeing something, and then you probably have heard people honking the horns and everything else to get people moving too. So please, 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 when you are driving, keep this on mute or whatever. If you've got a Bluetooth accessory into your car, if you know how to use it and set it up before you're driving, that's great, okay? But don't try to be setting it up while you're driving. I've seen people who will turn around and they're going, oh, my Bluetooth is not working, my phone's ringing, but it's not coming over my phone, and they're fiddling with their dials and everything. Don't worry about that. Because you start fiddling with your dials and then you start weaving in the lane. Do you think it's going to be another we call probable cause, a reason for me to pull you over? Yes. Because for one, I'm probably going to suspect you of drunk driving first. Okay, so that's to kind of keep that in mind. So just to kind of let you know, too, that sometimes, too, we might pull you over because you might appear to need assistance. And what I mean by that is we've had some people who have had medical emergencies. We've actually had some people. I had one gentleman one time when I was driving by him. He looked like he was literally ready to pass out, and he was starting to weave and everything. And I was like, wait a minute, something's wrong with him. So I went ahead and I pulled him over, and come to find out he was diabetic. And he was getting ready to go ahead and go into a blood sugar low, if y'all know what I'm talking about, when you get too low with your blood sugar. So I had to call a medic and everything for him. But if I hadn't pulled him over, he could have had an accident. Okay, and I know he did get mad at me because he was sometimes people who are diabetic at that low blood sugar, they get a little bit aggressive and aggravated with you and everything. And he did it first, but once his blood sugar came up, the medics treated him. He was like, thanks, I'm sorry, that's no problem. I've been treated worse, trust me. So that was no problem. You know, things like that were going to happen too. Keep in mind too, you may be in an area where maybe we just had a crime occur, a homicide, for example. Maybe you live in an apartment complex and there's only one way in and out. And we don't know who the person is. Maybe your vehicle might fit that description. So we may pull you over just to go ahead and, check in. I know it sounds like, well, that's invasion of my privacy. Well, you'll be able to explain that a little bit more about how we can hopefully, explain. It's, when we're interrogating or I'm not saying interrogating, an investigative part of an investigation, we can go ahead and talk to people, pull people over. And it's only if there's like a crime, immediate crime happening right there and then in the area, okay? Sometimes we can go ahead and we can stop people when we have DUI checkpoints. Y'all probably seen those before. When we'll have it marked, like on the road, it'll say, they don't use exactly the term DUI checkpoint anymore, but a traffic safety checkpoint, something like that, and they'll have cones set up and everything, and then you go through it. They'll ask you for your license and stuff like that to go ahead and check on it. You may have even been a witness to a crime, too, and we've had some people who have just seen something major happen, and like I know somebody's mentioned like a shooting or something, and they take off very quickly away from the area. So we see you taking off really quickly in the area again, and we may pull you over because that's suspicious, just to see what's going on or anything else. Also keep in mind too is that you may even been identified as a suspect. Maybe you were the one who was the shooter, and people are saying that girl or guy right over there that's driving that car just shot this person. Okay, that'll give us the right to go ahead and stop. Other things too, like with violations, the expired tags, that kind of thing. It's really important. I know some people kind of have noticed the Commonwealth has gotten a little bit lax with how long you can go with your car tags and everything else too. But I will let you kind of think about this for a minute. I know some people have said to me, well, that's not fair now. You can go up to 4 months before getting pulled over for your tag being expired. And I pay my taxes and this and that. True, I do too. I also make sure, too, I keep my tags updated. Just because somebody else may not be doing it, please don't be part of the problem, too. Because just because we had some lawmakers who changed that, guess what? We got new people in town now, don't we? Can that change again? Yes, okay. So keep that in mind. Also, sometimes, too, I will let you know, if we do go to pull you over, usually we're going to be in a marked unit. And, for Newport News, our car colors are white with the blue markings and everything, okay? If you've seen our cars at nighttime, it looks like a circus performance. They're very bright. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? You're like a Viva Las Vegas, Viva Newport News here. But what I want you guys to know is this. Even if it's a marked car behind you and you're in a dark area, let's say by Newport News Park, where there's no street lights up there, okay? And all you've got is the fire station one side and the campsite on the other, but you're going like towards York County. Just put your flashers on, slow down, keep going, and call 911 and let the dispatcher know I'm being pulled over by a police officer. I want to be verify, is this really a police officer behind me, okay? And especially if you happen to get pulled over by an unmarked car, You don't feel comfortable stopping for that car, don't stop, just put your flashers on, reduce your speed, call 911. The dispatcher will let you know if that is a person, the officer behind you, okay? For me, when that was my district for a long time, up by Newport News Park, and people fly up there like y'all would not believe. I mean, they speed. That's another reason we could pull you over too, for speeding, okay? They will fly up there. I mean, I got one time, one guy going 120. Anybody know what the speed limit is on Jefferson Avenue up there? It's 45, exactly. And so keep this in mind. And I know that when I've pulled over, especially even women, sometimes they'll wait and they'll pull into the 7-Eleven up there at Yorktown and Jefferson. I even have no issue with that because that's giving me also bright light and everything else too, so I can see what's going on in the car. You may sometimes wonder why the officers at nighttime will put the spotlight in your mirror. Y'all know why we do that? It's for a safety reason, but do you know why we do it? Has anybody ever been pulled over at nighttime and had the spotlight in the mirror in your car? It's because what it does when we approach your car, it lights up the light reflects off your mirror and lights up the whole interior of your car. So that way when we're coming up, you know, if hopefully you won't have a gun pointed at us, but that might be a little bit of a heads up for us if you have a weapon in the car, because we don't know what we're walking up into. Believe it or not, traffic stop and domestics, those are two, well now the mentally ill too, dealing with them, those are the three most dangerous things that we deal with, believe it or not. Because when we're pulling somebody over, we don't know what's going on in that person's mind. You can have a perfectly normal, rational person, but just because we pull them over and the lights go on, it makes them very nervous, and they don't act like they would normally act. So, you know, keep that in mind when we go up there and there's a bright light and it's shining in your car and everything. We're not doing it to go ahead and hurt you or harm you. It's for safety. And it's for your safety as well, too, believe it or not, because when we do that, and you're going to be turning to talk to us so we can see you. Okay, we want you to turn and talk to us. Now, when we approach you, what we should do, and I say that because I know that people have told me different places they've been and have been pulled over and they've been treated differently and everything else. What we should do is when an officer comes up to you, first of all, they should be in uniform. If they're not in uniform, they should have some kind of a vest or ID. You can see I did wear my ID again today. Badge is on the other side, okay? But I make sure my picture part is showing it says police, just so people know who I am. For me, though, I would never pull somebody over in my plain clothes. Like even if I were off duty, if I were driving my police car, the only time I would ever pull somebody over, if I saw like somebody actually maybe have an accident and try to leave the scene, something like that, you know, something occurred right in front of me, a crime, then I would do it. But something minor like an expired tag, it's been expired only by 2 months, I'm not going to pull somebody in my plain clothes. Because when I pull somebody over, I want somebody to make sure they know I am an officer, okay? But I do want you to know they should come up, they should identify themselves to you. Again, depending on the situation, they don't have to go into a whole thing saying, hello, I'm Officer Young with Newport News Police Department or anything else. You know, usually depending on the demeanor of the person, when I pull somebody over, if I go up to them and they're pretty calm and everything, I will tell them, I'm Officer Young, you know, and I'm not going to go into a big thing what department I'm from because my uniform is going to say where I'm from, okay? But I will let them know if I do give them a summons, of course. The summons is going to say in the city of Newport News, so they'll know that part, okay? Also to let you guys know, too, is that, you know, when we do approach your vehicle and everything else, some things to keep in mind. When people first get pulled over by the police, first thing they want to do is they want to start going through the glove box and all this stuff, and your hands are moving all over the place and everything. That's not a good thing to do, okay? What you want to do is to keep your hands on the steering wheel and wait till we approach you and everything, and then we may ask you for your license, your registration, and insurance. And if we do, I would suggest to you that if it's over, let the officer know if it's in the glove box, or sometimes people keep it in that little compartment that's between the seats, which I highly recommend, okay? Or a lot of times, even what I did with my kids, because my kids have these new cars that have all the newfangled stuff. Y'all know where they have those sunglass visor things that nobody ever uses? You know what I'm talking about? That's where my kids keep their stuff. That way it's right there in sight, it's right above their heads, and they tell the officer, hey, because my daughter just got pulled over, she got a ticket too for going through a stop sign. I told my kids, don't you ever tell anybody who your mom and daddy is, because I don't care. You do something wrong, you're going to take the consequences. And my daughter, the officer never even called me up. My daughter turned around, I hadn't even gotten home from work. She called me and she goes, Mom, and I'm like, what? And she goes, I got to tell you something. I'm like, what are you going to tell me? I'm sitting there going, oh gosh, you know, I'm sitting there hoping maybe she's telling me she's going to get married and have kids so I got to be a grandmother. But she tells me, Mom, I'm sorry. I got to let you know I got a ticket. And I'm like, what'd you get a ticket for? And she said, oh, I ran a stop sign. And then, of course, the mother and me came out. where did you run a stop sign at? And I'm thinking, please don't tell me it was in our neighborhood where there's a four-way stop, and she's lived there almost all her life, and she tells me it was at the four-way stop near the house. I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, she had to pay a good fine for that one. Plus, not to mention, once you start getting tickets and everything, your car insurance goes up. And it doesn't matter what age you are. You know, people always think the younger you are, the higher. If you're an adult, y'all know how the insurance company's been working lately. If you haven't seen your policy lately, look at it, okay? They'll get you for anything. So again, you know, keep your insurance card, your license, keep your license on you, somewhere on you. A lot of times, too, like I hate when I have to see people have to like dig into a pocketbook or a wall all over looking for, you know, have your stuff prepared, okay? Another reason I say that is, let's just say if by some chance you happen to get into a car accident and you're knocked unconscious or something, we need to be able to find those documents to work the accident. Okay, we need to be able to know your license is in a certain place. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have a note saying my license is here, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Be somewhat organized and everything, okay? One thing, I just worked with another officer, and he had a really interesting project. He's not from around this area. He's from another state. I thought it was a fantastic idea he had, and they're working it up in Maryland, where they have people that are either special needs or autistic, or even veterans of PTSD that are driving, and they're going with a program with their police department where they actually have a sticker on the side of their car that says that they have special needs. So when the officer approaches them, that officer will know how to deal with the person. Like I said, we don't know what to expect or anything, but sometimes if you know we have somebody that has a special need and everything else, if we know ahead of time or we see that, that might be a good indicator how we can go ahead and communicate and deal with the person. Okay. And I've even come across people who are deaf who can't, you know, speak, and they've been in car accidents, and you know, I didn't know at first what was going on with the person. I didn't realize that they couldn't hear. So again, anything that you can do that can help make that, you know, a little bit more of a better communication there too. Also keep in mind too that if you do conceal carry, that when we run your license plate, if you have, you know, concealed carry permit and everything else, I just didn't know if you guys knew this or not, when we run your license plate, it lets us know that you are a concealed weapon carrier, okay? Again, that's another safety thing. Now, you know as well as I know, there's a lot of people who do not have permits who are carrying weapons in their cars. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? So again, that's why I tell people, keep your hands on the steering wheel. Don't go putting them, you know, down. Don't go, if you happen to drop your license or your registration while you're trying to hand it to the officer, let the officer know I dropped it, okay? I always try to be fair with people, and when I go back to my car and I get in the computer, and if you've done a minor infraction, this is the nice thing about Newport News, we're not like Hampton. Seriously, because I don't think a lot of people realize this, we actually are allowed to go ahead and we can give people warnings and stuff. We are trusted with discretion, which is a big thing, and I'll tell you why. There's been a lot of times where I have pulled over young drivers, and can I ask how old you are, if you don't mind? You're 18, okay. You're a perfect example of the age, I'm using your age, okay? I have pulled over 18-year-olds before who've never had a ticket before in their life, okay? And maybe you didn't blow past a stop sign, but you did what we call a California stop, you yielded, okay? But there was no traffic coming on or anything, okay? But I caught you doing it, and I pull you over. For something like that, it's your first time, I'm probably gonna give you a warning. If there's been nobody around, there was no chance of you getting into an accident or everything else. A couple of reasons being is because one, I want to see that young person learn from that mistake, okay? And I think everybody should be allowed to get a chance. Two, if I give her a ticket, what's going to happen to her insurance, okay? And also keep in mind too is that when I give her a warning, it's in our computer system. So if you ever get pulled over again, and the officer's, you know, talking to you and you say, oh, I've never had a ticket before, and the officer's okay, goes back to their car and checks in the computer, but sees that you've been warned before for a stop sign, not stopping for it, and you did the same thing again, what do you think is going to happen now? You're going to get a ticket, okay? So it's a good system that we have with the warning because we can see it on the computer and we pull it up and everything too, okay? And like I said, people sometimes make mistakes. We're all not perfect and everything else too. And let's be real, all of us at one time, I'm guilty of it too, I'm not going to lie to you, all of us at one time, at least one time or another, has either had a lead foot Or we've done this. How many of y'all have done this? You're looking for something, and you're only going like 5 miles an hour on the road. Where's the address? Haven't we all done that sometime too? Okay. I caught myself when I went to a conference in Richmond recently, and in Richmond, you can't drive slow like that. You drive slow like that, you're in trouble. Because I'm sitting there and it was nighttime and I'm trying to look for where I was supposed to be staying at, and it was like very hard to find. And I mean, I had about 20 cars behind me and they were all honking the horns and everything else too. So also, you know, when we do pull you over, if it's nighttime, if you want to put the interior light on, that will help us too with, you know, seeing in the inside of your car, anything that you can do to help us too. But also I want you to realize too that when we tell you who we are, we're going to also let you know why we pulled you over. Okay, we're going to tell you the reason why we pulled you over. I'm not going to sit there and ask, you know, who you are, need your license, registration, and everything, and come up to you and just say, you know, what's your problem with your driving? What's wrong with you? Did you see that stop sign back there? I'm not going to lecture you or anything, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and talk to you, and if I decide to go ahead and give you a summons, I'm going to give you a summons, and when I give you the summons, I'm going to explain to you that this is a Virginia uniform summons, let you know what code section I pulled you over for, the charge. I'll let you know when the court date is, and I will let you know whether or not it's what they call a pre-payable offense, which means if you don't want to go to court to, you know, testify over what happened, you can prepay the offense, which is what my daughter did because she knew she was guilty. But anyway, and on the back it'll have on there the pre-payable offenses and how much it costs and everything. And in her ticket ended up being expensive because whenever you pay a fine, there's always a court cost included in that. Am I correct on that? And some of the fees can be pretty high depending on what they are and everything too. So even if you do go and testify in court, you're found guilty, you still have to pay a court fee. Okay? So just kind of keep that in mind too. So also we're going to go ahead and we do ask you that if you do have a weapon to let us know. You know, whether it's a gun, a knife, even a baseball bat. You know, people look at me kind of funny when I say that. People sometimes will carry baseball bats and stuff too with them. So, yes?
So if we have a weapon in the car, putting our hands out the window, is that recommended?
Keep your hands on the steering wheel.
On the steering wheel?
On the steering wheel, okay? And then just let us know and let us know where the weapon is, okay? Now, at that point, we may ask you to step outside of your car to go ahead and deal with it, just so we'll be more comfortable with it, okay? Again, I can tell you right now, I can count maybe on 2 hands how many times when I pulled people over that I actually ended up where, oh, I knew you from high school. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? I usually don't know the people I'm pulling over and everything, and that's my only encounter with that person. So I want to make sure that even if they were in the wrong, that they have a positive encounter with the police. Because I don't want that person to leave thinking, God, that person picked on me just because of whatever reason. You know, we don't want that to happen. If you ever have where you think the officer is getting unprofessional, you need to go ahead and make a report. As soon as you get done with what the issue is there, then and there, don't argue with the officer or anything. Just go ahead and make sure you got the officer's name and everything else too. And then you go ahead and, like for us, you can go on our website to make a complaint, go and look up Internal Affairs, or you can call them, but I don't know if anybody's going to answer because if it's at nighttime or on a weekend, hit or miss, okay? So, but you go ahead and you make a complaint and make sure you follow up with that complaint. Now, sometimes you will see maybe another officer pulling over to back. Like if I pull somebody over, another officer may pull up behind me just to go ahead and make sure I'm safe. He or she may stay in their car, just watch while the thing is going on, just to make sure I'm safe and everything else too. But again, you know, there shouldn't be 4 or 5 officers. If I pulled you over for running a stop sign, I'm going to be typing in why I pulled you over. Okay, there shouldn't be 4 or 5 officers. Okay, so now if he comes back maybe with a concealed weapon permit, possibly another officer, maybe 2, but no more, not the 4 or 5, no. And I don't like when I see officers do that because I just think that's just intimidating then at that point. And I don't think there's a need for that, you know, unless something comes up on that radio or on the computer screen indicating that person is a threat, then I can understand do that. But again, make sure, and I think I put the number on here for you. There's as far as the non-emergency number, that's the number you can call too. Also, when you are talking with the officer, please do me one other favor. Don't talk on your phone. I've had it where when I've worked accidents before and I'm trying to get information, like especially the exchange information form that we have to give the other driver for insurance purposes and everything, and I have somebody who is just on the phone. And it's not even that serious of an accident. They're not hurt. The other person's not hurt or anything. But they're having to call their friend or their family member. Oh, my gosh, I've been in an accident. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? And I tell people, you can call your family and friends up. Just let them know you're okay real quick. Call them back when we get done, but we need to get this done first. okay? I know some people have said, well, what about if people are recording you with their phones? And I'm like, go ahead, because guess what? I'm recording you. We all wear our Axon cameras, and we're going to record every contact encounter that we have with people out here. There are some people who say, I don't like those cameras. I'm going to tell y'all right now, I love them. Because if somebody says, Officer Young did this or did that, all you got to do to verify is go look at the camera. And in Newport News, one good thing we have, I highly recommend if you guys want to get involved with is that we have we call our use of force review board. And the use of force review board is comprised of not only officers, administrators, but it's also comprised of citizens from the city. And those citizens, though, they have to attend one of our police academies, whether it's Senior Citizen Police Academy or the regular Citizens Police Academy. They have to attend one of those because that way they get to see what our policies and stuff are and how we do training and everything. And then you get to get on the review board if you want to. And then what happens is we meet like every other week, I believe it is now. And we have the forums right here, and the officers are there. And they will go ahead and they'll play the Axon video footage right on a big screen. And everybody gets to watch it. And then as things are going on, the citizens are allowed to go ahead and ask the officers, what was going through your mind when you did this and that? You know, why did you act like this, or why didn't you act like this? And then at the end, what happens is the citizens will put in their input also, and they'll ask, put in things like, well, I think maybe this officer, it's a training issue, they might need more training, or the officer was unprofessional, the officer needs to go ahead and be punished for that. That's not my pacemaker, I promise. Or the officer needs to be terminated. Okay, they can make those recommendations. So again, I want you to keep in mind that when we do things, especially these traffic stops and stuff too, we're not going to be doing it just for fun and everything else too. It's a very dangerous thing for us to do too. Okay, but do keep in mind there's a lot of construction going on in Newport News. Y'all see it all the time, and I don't know who puts the signs up sometimes. There was one the other day that said you needed to merge right, and guess what? Guess which way you had to merge? Left. And the signs were all pointing to the right or to the left, but it said merge right. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, so which way is which? So, I did pull over into the parking lot up there by Harpersville and Warwick, and I just walked over to the people and I said, I'm not trying to be mean, but I said, I'm an officer, and I said, y'all got the sign kind of mixed up here. And I got mixed up driving my own personal car, and they were like, oh, we didn't even realize that. So sometimes the construction crews don't, check either. When you are driving in construction zones, please make sure you go in the speed limit. Okay, especially on that Hampton Roads Bridge tunnel. I hate going over that. That is so dangerous. Y'all know I'm talking about lanes is wide, okay? And people just fly right by and everything else too. So, and keep in mind too, the older we get, sometimes a little bit harder for us to see at nighttime and everything. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting up there. And I even noticed the other day for the first time, it was like I had to go like this. I'm like, oh, I need new glasses too. But I was like, okay, I think it's time to start keeping driving in the daytime for me. And it gets dark earlier now, doesn't it? Okay, so if you know that you have a difficult time seeing at night, and some people do have eye conditions, that they have a problem with glare and stuff at nighttime too, you've got that, then don't go out and drive. Okay? So, yes, go ahead.
Quick question.
Yes.
I had an encounter actually just this morning.
Okay.
Riding beside a Newport News police officer on Warwick, so it's just 2 lanes.
Right.
And he was slowly drifting into my lane. He was typing on his
Computer.
whatnot computer, and I thought respectfully, I did not lay on my horn. I tooted it like hoo-hoo. Hoo-hoo, you're on your way over here. When we stopped at our stopping spot, he gave me a very stern look. And so, no encounter, but I thought he was wrong. I mean, he was wrong.
Yes. And in that case, I would tell you what you could go ahead and do is the number that's on here, make sure you get the unit number. There's a car number on every one of the units. Get that unit number, because sometimes it might be, you can't just say, you can't get the officer's name, but also what happens is sometimes the cars are assigned to what they call a pool car, which means a different officer each shift is driving that car. Okay, so if you just have like a description of what the officer looked like and get that pool, and I would still go ahead and call that in. And that's one of the biggest problems, me being an old timer, that I've had is with the computers, is we become too computer dependent. I like the microphone 10-4, I'm en route, the dispatcher gives me the cross street for the address and everything else too. Because what's happening now is they dispatch the officers, and then the officers got to hit the button saying that they're en route, and then if they don't know where they're going, there's another button they have to hit that will show them a map, and this, hit a button, enter, you know what I'm talking about. And it's just as bad as texting and driving, I feel, you know. And I just think that we should go back to the old system as far as the dispatching part. If we're taking a report, giving a summons or to whatever you're taking off, working an accident, we got to do that. We're pulled over to the side, okay? And that's another thing too, when you are pulling over, and especially on Warwick Boulevard, you know, again, just put your flashers on and pull into a driveway of a bit. But when you pull into the driveway of business, pull all the way in. Don't block the driveway, okay? And again, like I said, you know, with that, I would definitely go ahead and I would, because we actually, I mean, no offense meant, we do have a lot of people that, in our department that, by the grace of God, I don't know how they managed to get to be a police officer with their driving skills. I mean, no offense meant, seriously. We all have our issues and stuff, you know. And, you know, you think about a lot of people nowadays, look at how driver's ed works even in Newport News now. You know, when my son went through it, it was required that he had to have 40 hours of driving by me, taught by me, and 20 of it had to be at night. And they give you a log sheet to use. When I took my son to go to the actual part at Todd Stadium, I saw kids knocking over them cones and everything, and they told my son, oh yeah, we just went ahead and we initialed it for our parents. They hadn't even had practice or anything. You know, and you know, a couple of kids had to repeat it a couple times going up there at Todd Stadium, but when you're actually there, and then even if you get out on the road, if you're taking it during the summertime, there's not as much traffic because schools and everything aren't open. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? So they can manage to stay in their lane and do just enough to pass. And, you know, unfortunately, sometimes you get some of these driver's ed teachers that are over there. Y'all know what I'm talking about. A lot of kids are in the car. I've seen it. You know, anybody can pass. So, you know, it's important. And, I mean, if you've got kids and grandkids and they're learning how to drive, give them practice time. You know, take them to a school or a Todd Stadium parking lot, not when it's in session, you know, but when it's out of session. Get some little cheap traffic cones like from Dick's Sporting Goods or something. Set up a little thing and let them practice. Let them practice, because that's the only way they're going to learn. And, you know, when they're doing it, don't turn around, try not to do this. Stop, don't do that, okay? But, you know, and then also teach them what to do if a police officer stops you. Hands on the steering wheel. You know, make sure, too, when we come up, make sure your windows roll down, too, so we can talk to you, okay? There's nothing worse if you got your window rolled up and we're, can you roll your window down? You know, we want you to be able to hear everything and see everything, okay? But, you know, keep in mind, where are they keeping the insurance card? A lot of the kids don't think about insurance cards as well as registrations, okay? So just keep those things in mind, because if they can't produce the registration or can't produce the insurance card, believe it or not, they can get a summons for that, okay? Not that we're going to be nitpicky, but I'm just letting you know, because there are some people out there looking for that monthly quota, if y'all know what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay? So I don't do that. Like I said, I like to give people chances and opportunities. You know, I don't like to see people get their record totally messed up and everything, too. Yes?
Well, a few years ago, I was 15 miles over the speed limit, and I, of course, was pulled over, and of course, that's reckless driving. But,
For 15?
isn't it?
It's 20 and over.
Well, it used to be 15 long enough ago. But anyway, I knew about the driving schools. So I went to the driving school, and I just want to share that with everybody. That's a smart thing to do.
Yes.
To have that certificate in your hand as you go to the judge.
Yes.
They understand that you're trying to.
You took that
make a
initiative.
limit.
Yes.
Yeah. And therefore, he backed it away from reckless driving. So I only had to pay fees and all that for just 10 miles over.
Right. And keep in mind, too, if something were to happen, let's say that you have a medical emergency and you get into an accident or anything else, too, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, okay? Correct me if I'm wrong on this. If, I'll give you a good example. I did have a seizure 2014. I had cancer. Told you I'm accident prone, see, I told y'all. And I've been here 35 and a half years. That's the only time I've ever wrecked a police car, the only time I totaled a police car, only time. And I had a seizure, I went unconscious. And I did hit one car. Didn't hurt anybody, thank God. Barely hit him, clipped him. Oh, but that person was trying to sue and all this and that. If you have a medical emergency, you can't be sued. Am I correct? Please tell me if I'm correct, because I was sweating bullets. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my house and everything else. And
You can be sued because you can technically be sued by anyone.
Yeah.
However, there's an exception to that. If
Yeah.
you're in some type of danger, then that's the exception to the rule.
yeah, so, and then again, keep in mind, my license was suspended for 6 months after that. And I still, every so many years, I still have to go and get a whole exam done by the neurologist and prove it's DMV and pay DMV $300 when I have to do it and all, to go ahead and show I'm capable of driving. Now, my husband might tell you that I'm not, but I am. I am. So, he's the one. I'm the one. When I'm in a car with him, I'm the one driving, not him. So, but anyway, are there any questions or anything? Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned back to your tickets. Are all tickets can be a prepaid ticket?
No, not all of them, no. No, for example, like if you're speeding, yes, but if the speeding turns into where it's 20 or more and goes into reckless driving, no. Okay? If you've been in like any kind of reckless driving, no. If you've been in an accident and you get certain charges, no, you have to show up. Okay? And be advised too that, we like to tell people if you did witness an accident or something, please stand by, pull your car to a safe place and stand by and let the officer know you did witness it. And let them have your information and everything else, because we see a lot of times when there's an accident and somebody was, we can't sometimes tell who was at fault, but then later on, when we have had witnesses say it was this person, and everybody identifies that person, then we can have them come to court and go ahead and testify. Okay? Especially when you have somebody who gets hurt and it wasn't their fault. That's a terrible thing if people witnessed it and drove off. You'd like to hope that people are going to help each other. So, anything else? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, mine's not so much it's an observation, I guess. Driving at night, police officer's car is lit up.
Mhm.
It's ahead of me.
Mhm.
I know why it's bright, but it is so distracting.
Yes.
That it's like almost blind, that you can't see anything around. And obviously you're slowing down because of that. But I'm just wondering, is there a point where it shouldn't be that bright or something like that? If it gets to where
That's kind of a catch-22 we've had happen, because it's happened before. It's the lights we used to have, people didn't see us. And the lights that we used to have before too, part of the problem was the lens covers used to get dirty and fade over time. Like, sometimes your headlights will get that fog look over it. So the lights, now the ones we have now work really good and they don't fog or anything else. The bad thing is, whether they were the dull ones or the bright ones, sometimes we're a sitting target for a drunk driver, because they see the lights and they beam on us and just right in the car. But there's a lot of times where people, if we didn't have those bright lights, would slam into us or the people we're trying for them not to hit. You know what I'm saying? And then not only that, with all the construction, we've actually been hired to have to sit behind the construction sites to keep people from hitting the trucks and everything else too that are there. Even though they have the big trucks, they have the big push thing y'all probably have seen. So if you ram into it, it's the ramming truck, which that's exactly what it's there for. So if a car doesn't see or stop for the construction, it rams into that truck first and that thing will give way and everything. But they don't stop. If you see, if you're coming up and there's like a police car and everything, and if it's pulled to the right and everything, just go to you're supposed to go anyhow, merge over to the left anyway. Just go to the far left and everything else, and just keep driving. The lights, don't do that, okay? Like a bug to the lights, don't do that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Being pulled over, and you talk about down by the park area, but it is real dark. You should put the flashes on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you drive to a lit area?
Yes. That's what I said. You could drive like to the 7-Eleven. You could even pull into the fire station if you want, but make sure you call 911 before you stop somewhere. Yeah.
How do you call 911?
Just call 911 and say, I think I have an police officer trying to stop me. I'm in the area of such and such. Could you verify this? And they'll let you know. And in fact, they'll get on the radio and you'll be able to hear them talking to the officer.
Okay, my point is, I'm driving,
Mm-hmm.
pulling me over,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting on my phone. Do I stop and then?
No, put your flashers on, slow your speed down, get on the phone with the dispatcher and tell the dispatcher, I think I'm getting pulled over, I want to verify, I'm not going to stop until you tell me it's a police officer behind me. And I'm going to stop either at the 7-Eleven at Yorktown and Jefferson, or the fire station, or the ranger station. Okay?
The reason I'm asking is because that sounds like one of them catch-22 situations.
Right, right.
Either I'm calling 911, the officer, all he sees me on the phone. That's what he sees.
No, but no, but no, when the dispatcher is going to let the officer know you were calling.
Right,
So you'll be okay. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
the alphabet.
Yeah, you're okay. The only thing I will ask is this: if you ever get pulled over there during Celebration of Lights, don't pull over in the parking lot, please, or the driveway to Celebration Lights. Please don't do that when it's going. We've had people who've been pulled because they didn't want to wait in the line, and they try to cut, through to people, and they get pulled over, and what do? I'm going to get into Celebration Lights. I'm still going to beat everybody. I'm going to pull right in here. The officer's right behind them, and it's like, no, we're going to make you go back to the end of the line again. So, yes.
My question is reference to funerals. I see, like, for example, in the old times, we used to pull over to the side of the road and stand as the funeral was passed. Today I see a lot of processions going through and the police officers in front and in the back. Obviously, the funeral doesn't stop for the traffic lights and all that other stuff. If I'm at a traffic light or if I come to a traffic light and it turns green, just as this funeral procession is passing by, am I allowed to go on my way? Or
If you're going the same direction, yes. But let's say I'm coming up, let's say that doorway is the intersection right there. I'm going this way, the funeral procession is going this way, the light's green for me, no, don't go through it. But if we're both going this way, you can be on either whatever side opposite, and you could pass it like that. But, people don't know etiquette. People just don't use etiquette anymore now. I hate to say that, but they don't. People cut in between with funeral processions. We've had people who turn around and think, just because it's a funeral procession, we're going by faster than, which we're not. We're going slower. But people think it's a good way to cut through, so. But, okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn over because I don't want to take too much of your time. Okay, so I apologize for that. But any other questions? Do me a favor. Oh, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm realizing that I'm having a lot more trouble seeing at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that a few weeks ago. And even tonight, and it's dry, there's no rain, but there's leaves, the glare of these big new
LED lights, yes.
whatever is bugging me to crazy. And so there are times I have to drive at night.
Mm-hmm.
So I have ordered better glasses, because right now I have dollar store yellow ones. So I've ordered some better ones to help with that, because some of them do. I had a pair a few years ago that did. It's really bad if it's raining.
Yeah,
And then as the sun is going down,
the glare.
but it's not down all the way and it's not dark all the way, you're getting sunlight coming in and off of the trees, and that is a real big problem. But anyway, that, and then a few weeks ago, I drove down the Hampton, I've been down that way for a long time, drove down the Hampton Roads Bridge tunnel, take him to the airport, before 5 o'clock in the morning. And whoopie-doo, the little narrow lane.
Yes.
The concrete barriers, I hate those, I hate those.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes you're so close to the car next to you, you could another coat of paint, you'd be scraping. Yeah.
Cars are flying by,
Yes.
and the speed limit goes down to 35 in places.
Yep. And they're not going 35. They're going much faster than that. And the trucks, too. Yeah. So, all right. Just one other thing real quick to keep in mind, too. Please make sure that you guys have a really great holiday season and everything, too. Please do me a favor. Keep your cars locked. Don't keep your valuables in your car. We've had people actually will leave guns in their cars and their glove boxes and everything else. Please don't do anything like that. Make sure you remember if you are leaving to go out of town at any time, you can call whatever precinct you may live near. You can go online to see with your house, your address, which precinct you're closest to. You can put a patrol check on your house. Just make sure that you go ahead and you let us know how long you'll be gone, who the key holder is, and the emergency contact is for you. Okay, and we will have an officer during each shift go by and do a drive-by by your house there. Okay? Not a version of a drive-by like this. Okay, she's looking like, what? No, not like that. We're not going to do like that, We'll go by and do a check-by. I should probably say that better. But, and like let us know, like, what cars may be in the parking lot and stuff, too. or your driveway, I'm sorry, I said parking. Well, if you live in an apartment complex, we can still check on your cars in the complex. So just let us know, and just be careful when you are shopping and everything. Be aware of your surroundings and everything else. And the other thing I would tell you about the traffic thing is you guys probably already see the signs for saying, don't give these people money and everything else too. Please don't. The panhandling is getting really, really bad, and the majority of those people that are panhandling, they are not poor. They are not real panhandling. And ladies, I'm going to get on the ladies for a minute. I see ladies doing this. They leave their pocketbook. Where do you usually have your pocketbook? If you're by yourself in your car, where do you usually keep your pocketbook? Honestly, on the passenger seat, right? Let's be real, okay? When these beggars come up, what side of your car are they approaching you? If you're like parked like if you're going to go towards, like, say, Jefferson Commons, and you're right there, you can go to Jefferson Commons, or you can go straight across and go to Lowe's and stuff. You know where Kohl's is right there? What side do they usually stand on? Passenger side. So you open your window to go ahead and say, here's something for you. What do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to take what's in your hand, or you think they're going to take what's in that seat? They're going to take what's in that seat. Okay? So, and then you're stuck too, especially if you have keys like mine, where I don't need my keys in the car, and they take off, and then your car after so many miles, whoop, my car's not working anymore. Anti-theft device, you know? So again, please, please, just be real careful of that, okay? But please have a great holiday season, and hopefully y'all have me back, whether I'm retired or not, because I did offer the chief to come back on a part-time basis if he wanted to keep me on a part-time basis, and he's going to check with city council, and hopefully they will give the good go, and I still get to do the same job, and that would make me very, very happy too, because I'm not ready to fully retire. I love my job too much, so I'm not gonna lie, no, not yet. So, all right, well, thank you guys. We're gonna swap.
Oh, take that,
Thank you.
and you can get my stuff. Thank you so much. That was just wonderful information, and it's so wonderful to see the younger faces here. That just really, really excites me. And we all know Counselor Taquan Gates. He's a licensed attorney in the Commonwealth of Virginia. He's been practicing law in the Commonwealth for, is it just 4 years, or is this old?
No, it's 4 years.
4 years,
Yeah.
okay. He loves helping people, period. He graduated from Emory and Henry College, received his Juris Doctorate from North Carolina Central University School of Law, and moved to Hampton Roads in 2019. He's a managing attorney at the Legal Aid Society of Eastern Virginia, and I wanted to ask you about this. You are in charge of the Disability Rights Unit and Homeless Outreach Project?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
welcome
you.
Attorney Gates.
Well, thank you again for having me. I love doing presentations, and when I did this, about a month or so ago, I enjoyed being here and presenting all that great stuff I gave you that day. But today, I'm focused more on parents and children's rights when it comes into like a school environment. In that regards to then I just go into it. So first, one of the areas that my unit does is education law. And that involves IEPs, 504 plans, disciplinary work, things of that sort. And also, if there is an issue with a student transferred to another school, we also assist with those things as well. And the latter part of what I'm going to discuss is I discussed it last time I was here a little bit, but like online scams, texting, things of that sort. So the first thing I'll tackle is the education piece. And I'll start with IEPs. And what an IEP is an individualized education program. And they're for students who have a disability. And you also have what's called a 504 plan, what people typically, and parents, children, sometimes school administrations, they often get those two different. Like they don't understand what those two different areas of the law and different areas of what a child may need are. So what an IEP is there's a child who has a disability and they need an individualized special program or specialized instruction to help them and assist them with their disability. Now, recently, I say within like the past decade, the IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disability Education Act, and that what governs IEPs. They gave the definition of what a disability is and how a child can make or be eligible for a disability. And essentially what that means is a child must have a disability, and with IEPs, it's like 13 qualifications of what a disability is. If they fit within that criteria, then they also have to meet the definition where the disability has to affect the school or the learning environment for that particular child. So if they have any issues with learning or have a learning disability, it has to affect how they learn or how they interact with school environments. Now with IEPs, those specific programs have to be individualized. So it can't be just some standard broad information that all students have. It has to be specified for that particular student. And how they get about doing that individualized education program or making that IEP for the specific person or student rather is there's a team. There's a team of school, it's a representative of the district, it's the parent, it's also either the special education coordinator and a teacher that the student has. Those 4 individuals or 5, give or take, they get together and they evaluate the child. What did the child need? So they do an evaluation program, and with that evaluation is maybe 7 to 8, or it's a various assessments that the child must go through, and then what the school must do to evaluate what the child really needs. And once they get all the information together, what they do is, as the school and the parent, they come together. So this particular student needs help in, let's say, reading, or they need help in math, or whatever the subject may be. Or if it's a behavior issue, and I get to the behavior part when it comes to IEPs, a little bit different, but if it's a behavior issue, how can they manage, the behavior? And once everything is together, all parties are in line into what the agreement is, what happens then is the school will create the IEP, and the school is required to go by the IEP. And if the school doesn't go by the IEP, and then there's issues. So what the parent can file, there's two or three different ways what the parent can file when it comes to an IEP. One is you can go through due process, and what that is let's say, for instance, the school isn't following what the instruction is with the IEP, whatever that may be. They can file a due process. They can file a complaint with the school board and the Virginia Department of Education, or they can go through mediation. There's multiple ways that they can get the school to do what they need for an IEP. And also schools are required, if a parent says, I think my child needs services, like I really do think that there's something, that will affect or will help my child in their learning environment. Schools, once they receive that notice, they have 60 days to make sure or do their evaluation. Now, within that 60 days, they have to get parental consent. Now, next question is well, if the parent, tells them that my child needs to be serviced or be reevaluated, why does my parental consent is needed? So there's 2 phases that a parental consent is needed. First is for the actual evaluation. Now, for the actual evaluation, the parent has to give what's called the informed consent to the school. The school would then go through their process of their evaluations. And then the next step is if they found that, the child may need an IEP, then they will have to do what's called, to actually do the IEP services, to receive those services. And that's the second form of informed consent that the parent must give. Now, the school would not be liable if the child or if the parent doesn't give their informed consent when they're doing the services, because the evaluation and getting the service are 2 separate things that the parents need. The school will be on the hook if they don't do the evaluation. But if they do the evaluation and think that the services are needed and the parent doesn't conform or give that consent, then they won't be on the hook. So when the parent comes back and maybe say, hey, well, you didn't, follow through with the IEP or didn't follow through with the evaluation to get services to my child, then the school has the right to say, well, no, we gave you this information, we did this evaluation, you didn't give your consent. So once all of that is situated, and let's just say, for example, with going into a little bit depth with the IEPs, if a child has a behavior issue, you know, he or she may, you know, may get in fights a lot, may have arguments a lot, or altercations with other students, maybe even the teacher, then the school decides to suspend the student for, let's say, 5 or 6 days. The thing that I always tell my clients is contact the school with IEPs, contact the school immediately, call an IEP meeting. And what the IEP meeting is to go over the IEP once again. IEPs, as a side, IEPs can, or they're supposed to be evaluated every 3 years. It's mandated that they're reevaluated every 3 years. Now, you can have however many IEP meetings that you want, but for law purposes, the school has to do a reevaluation every 3 years. Now, they can make it as less as 1 year, but overall, the student has to have 3 years. Now, 3-year reevaluation. But when the IEP meeting comes, the parent can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many IEP meetings that they want, if it's necessary, if it's needed, if the parent feels that the school is not, you know, implementing the IEP correctly, or if the school thinks that, you know, this IEP isn't working for this child, let's reconvene and let's see what we can do to help better this child. So going back to the disciplinary issue, if there's an issue where the student is, you know, being misbehaving and is suspended for 6 days, IEP meeting is called, and then at that IEP meeting, and then they start discussing what happened, like why is such and such, whatever the student, why are they acting that way, why did this altercation happen? And then after this meeting happens, the school and also the parent would get together and see if the disability, whatever their disability is a result of whatever that behavior was. So if their disability was something related to behavior and that was a result of the actual suspension, then the school can, if they want, limit the suspension, so from 6 to 3 days, or let them come back the next day. It just depends. But within that meeting, they can create what's called a BIP, which is a behavior intervention program. And what that is, it helps the teachers, it helps the student, it helps the parent. All right, if such and such is doing this, what are the steps that we have to do in order to help this child not do this again? And if that continuously be an issue in the future, then the schools, the IEP, and the parent and the child typically are not involved with the IEP meeting. It's more so the parent, but the child can come, but that's more so on the parent if they want the child to attend the IEP. And sometimes it may be necessary, but they're not required to be there, just the parents are, the parents especially. But if they come to an issue where the child is just not doing what they need to do and there's a suspension that happens, let's say more than 10 days, then the mother, the father, whomever the guardian is, can actually file an appeal in regards to that 10-day suspension, and that's outside of IEPs and outside of individuals with children with disabilities. If there's a suspension more than 10 days, they can file an appeal with the school board. Well, typically you go to the principal, see what they can do to help the situation, to see if, you know, this 10-day suspension is something that is warranted. And if that doesn't go anywhere, then they can file a complaint with the school board and handle it then. School boards sometimes are responsive to the complaints, but other times they're not, which goes into other issues when it goes to due process issues with regards to children. But that's what IEPs. Now, 504 plan is a little bit different. It's a little bit more informal. IEPs, very strict. It's either black and white, but 504 plans, they are less formal, but also help individuals with disabilities. And a lot of the times, if a student doesn't qualify for IEP, they may still qualify for a 504 plan. Because a 504 plan is more broader. They don't have a specific set of disabilities. They have like a large range that a student can fall under. Some such as like if you have an allergy, if you know, been diagnosed with ADHD, or you have some issues with reading or something like that. Those type of issues are with a 504 plan. And with a 504 plan, it doesn't have to be in writing. There are more, well, I always tell clients, and when I'm helping parents with 504 plans, I always tell them to be in writing, but they're not required to under law. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with that statement you just made.
Okay?
I'm a school counselor at a local high school,
Yes, ma'am.
and it is my understanding that 504s are as legally binding as an IEP is.
Yes.
But you just sort of said they weren't, or at least that was my impression of what I heard. And it is my understanding that they always have to be in writing.
Well, I didn't say that they weren't legally binding, because they are. 504 plans and IEPs are both serious things, just 504 is a lot broader than what an IEP is. However, 504 plans are a lot informal than IEPs. And because of such, they don't have to be in writing. Like, a lot of it is done orally, unfortunately. I don't advise that, but from my understanding in other school districts that I have dealt with, their 504 plans are not in writing. And that does create the issue. And that's the issue that I've always have with, you know, different school boards and things of that sort, is not everyone falls under what it needs to be. And it's informal. I think it needs to be in writing. However, that's not the guidelines that all school boards follow.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have taught, 35 years I taught high school level, but I've also subbed and all that in the elementary school level. And I really want to rally on behalf of the teacher,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
because you're somewhat tying her hands. You're asking, demanding, or whatever, a lot of things of her that it's impossible to deliver. In other words, you're insisting that this particular guy be mainstreamed into the class, whereas she doesn't have all the assistance, and she doesn't have the ability to hone in on this one kid to provide all the essentials you're asking them to provide, because she's got a class of 35 that's over the limit that's been predicted for her. What I'm saying is that the teachers need to be really, really helped in all of these plans that are provided. The plan is good for the kid, and the plan is good for, you know, for the parent. But sometimes the parents are not delivering what they're supposed to deliver, and therefore that again ties the hands of the teacher that would want to do as much as they can. What can you do to alleviate that?
And yes, ma'am, like, you're absolutely right. And that, you know, don't fault teachers or don't fault schools or anything like that. In regards to, like, that means teachers and school boards, they're short-staffed. They're short-staffed, and they do have large classrooms that they have to facilitate and also worry about other kids as well. I always put that and take that into mind. Everybody's got a job to do. I always take that into consideration when I'm handling these types of issues. However, there is also things that needs to, you know, happen for the child, because the child is suffering.
Absolutely.
And I get this a lot, and it's not, I try not to be the one who try to put my force down or stomp my feet or whatever. I know some people do, but I don't. And when they hear the name like an attorney, like if they say, oh, well, take one case is here to represent whoever the parent is, all right, this is going to be a fight. This is going to be a fight with whatever the education, the IEP is, the 504 plan. We're going to go, that's never the issue, because what's most important is the child. And what IEP meetings are for, and 504 plans, those are in their meetings, what they are for is to help the child. It's both parties, all parties getting together to try to find out what's best for the student, and that's always the job. not all the time that, both sides are going to come out of the IEP meeting happy or 5 plans meeting happy, but at least is my best practice, and also in every meeting to get the best result for the actual student.
The best for the student, of course.
Yeah.
Is a one-on-one.
Absolutely.
The closer you get to one-on-one, is the best for any child.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody knows that. But a school, a public school system cannot do that. They cannot provide the one-on-one
Yes.
in the classroom that is needed for that particular child. And I'm not speaking against the
Yeah.
child, because I've taught many classes that had many students like this that had to have special attention, which I gave. But again, there are teachers that are leaving the system.
Yeah.
Because they can't handle the stress, because they can't deliver what people are asking them to do.
Yes, ma'am. And again, like I totally understand it from a teacher's perspective. My wife was a former teacher. My mother-in-law is a teacher. Like I understand it from that perspective. And again, I give all credence to, again, they have a job to do, and I understand how hard it is. And again, it's all about making the best plan that helps first the student, because that's why we're there. We're there to help the student, but also make sure it's beneficial, for the teacher as well. Like that's always the goal, I think, for IEP and 504 plans, is to make sure that all parties are able to help this child. Because the child has to learn. Like, and it's nobody's fault or whatever that disability may be for that particular child. But it's important to make sure that, that's why the IDEA was made. That's why the 504 Rehabilitation Act, that's why that was here. That's the reason why we have these laws, in order to protect those individuals, to give these individuals with disabilities the same opportunities and same education as, someone who don't have this difficulty. But I do understand the difficulty in teachers doing that. And I would also say, that there are schools who, unfortunately, say that they can't, and just with just anything in life, but also say that, they can't do a certain thing for a particular student, or can't do a certain thing listed, or what the parent may be requesting. Sometimes it's true, and sometimes it's just the parent, not the parent, but the school not wanting to do it. And that's unfortunate, and I've seen it unfortunately happen, but sometimes that's also the case, in which while we have the IDA and the 504 to protect issues like that going forward. So I finished with the IEPs, and I'm back at 504 plans. Now the 504 plans, again, very broad when it comes to whether or not a student can go under it or fall under that category. And also with the 504 plans that, can last as long as, the child is in school. And also there's provisions also located in the statute that says that once a student, graduates, make sure that they're there with the graduation, make sure that they're getting all the services to transition. The transition is also in the IDEA that they can transition to, living in adulthood. That doesn't mean that, at 25 years old, the school is still responsible for the child. That's not what that means. It's just making sure that they're able to transition to life as someone who doesn't have these types of disabilities or difficulties when it comes to their learning. I would say that when it comes to both the IEPs and the 504 plans, what I've noticed is that a lot of the school districts that I practice at or practice in is some are willing to meet with the parent, and others aren't. Others aren't ready to have that conversation for a child. I have an IEP meeting coming up here shortly where there hadn't been an evaluation of the child for quite some time, 2 years or so, but they're after reading the IEP and also looking over the grade levels and how that child has progressed over the years, there are things that are missed. And I'm not saying that, again, everybody is, some teachers, some school districts are overworked. I'm not here to bash them. That's not what I'm here to do. But that's what the IEP and the 504 plans do. Like you get to see exactly what their progression levels are. And then if you catch some of the parent, catch some with these IEPs with 504s, they can immediately call these plans and these teams to go together to get whatever is necessary done for these particular students and whoever they may be. That's it with education. Is there any question in regards to education or anything like that?
Can I ask a question about disciplinary stuff?
Yes, yes.
There was a situation, it's been quite some time now, where my granddaughter was in a fight in school. So they wanted to gather the people that were involved in the fight in a separate room to discuss it. And they called me because their mother was not available. And I was like, what? You're gonna put her in a room with other people and there might be a big old fight by then? What were my rights then? I mean, I know what I did, but what would you have recommended? Just let them do it or say, no, that ain't happening, or what?
So what I would recommend if a situation like that happens and if they catch it, like they're able to call you before the meeting commences with all the students in one room, is to ask that, your particular child be, not in that particular meeting once, and that discussion happen individually with whoever is doing their investigation. Because just like when police officers are interrogating suspects, is a better word, everybody's not in the same room. So you never know what's going on. And in regards to your rights, there's nothing preventing them from doing that, unfortunately, from what my interpretation of what the law is. However, I will say that those are one of those things where you can just, contact the school and say, hey, why are you having this conversation amongst other students when, like, my child is there and, a lot of things can go haywire. So I was just, if you able to catch it ahead of time, just ask that your child be respectfully interviewed by themselves. That would be my best advice in a situation like that. Yes, ma'am.
I have another question. This came up fairly recently with a relative, but a child had an IEP when she was in school, okay? Graduated, but graduated late, like was retained. Now, this was another state, so a little different situation, but in Virginia,
So when it comes to like situations like that, once someone does attain the age of 18, they are considered by the law an adult. They're considered adult. However, there are also exceptions to the law when it comes to children with disabilities. If there is a child that has a disability that has been on file and has an IEP, I believe the age, they can go up to 19, but they have to be still in school. That person have to be in a school. Once they leave school, then you go into another area of the law which doesn't necessarily go with education, and you will have that particular parent, if it's a disability so severe enough that they can't fend for themselves, then they will have to file what's called guardianship. And then at that point, that's how you can obtain records, if that particular school actually have those records. But also when it comes to like records, and if that particular child wants to go to college, that's a whole other set of laws and issues in regards to whether or not that particular child can get those records at school, because private institutions and public institutions are two separate things, and each school has their own policy in regards to that. So I would say if the child is capable of living for themselves, then they will have to obtain those records themselves, unfortunately. It's just only when the child is in school that 18 and 19 come into effect, where the parents still can get those records, but absent that, it's on the child at that point. But that's only if, again, they're not deemed incompetent to do so.
Going back to some of the comments that Renee had, there is I think a lot of times they will tie the hands of a principal or a person that's trying to discipline. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to discipline. A lot of times children, when they act inappropriately, would love to have a week out of school. They would love to be able to, that's exactly what they're shooting for. And with a clever amount of alternatives, and, but the state or the school board or whatever has tied the hands of those people that could offer, like in-house suspension. That's nothing. You just have this kid over in the cafeteria and he's not allowed to go to classes. That doesn't do much discipline. But I've really been sad about that, because I don't know what other alternatives are offered to the principal or the assistant principal if an action is necessary. The child, again, is in a fist fight or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
I know maybe court action. I know maybe taking them out 2 weeks, out of school. Whereas it'd been better if he'd had to wash the floors or something instead, which it wouldn't have served better.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are the options now?
Well, so like when it comes to disciplinary issues, that's a school by case by case basis when it comes for schools. As far as in the law perspective, I mean, there's no guidance as to, you should, if A and B, like if someone hits someone in the face, then you're required to suspend this student once. There's no law, if I'm understanding your question correctly, that says that has to happen. It only comes an issue when, let's say that, a child has a disability, or if other people are involved and it does rise to a level where court action has to happen. Those are the options. So I can't tell you exactly what other options that a school may have. It's just on a case-by-case basis and a school-by-school basis of what they do.
I'll just bring up a situation
Sure.
that I was in. I was a
I got
principal in Gloucester for alternative school, a whole different thing.
Mhm.
But I had the ability and the options. For instance, a child got mad at another child. He didn't hit the child, he hit the wall and a big hole in the wall. So my option for them and the family, you come and fix my wall. I didn't want to throw him out of school. That is exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to come and paint my wall and fix my wall. And that turned out to be a really neat thing to do. There were many things like that, you know. But again, that was a charter school and that was, you know, a very unique situation. But it seems like to me alternatives like that would be a far better plan.
And it could be, a thing that helps. But again, it's on the school to do that and handle those types of things, depending on what the behavior is or what transpired to cause some type of reprimand. Yes, sir.
I have a question, it's more a personal question, and then I have a statement I would like to make about that.
Sure.
Personal question, JSD, is that right? Doctorate in law?
Yes,
Plan on becoming a judge?
that is my ultimate goal. That is my ultimate goal, is to become a judge, Supreme Court judge.
There you go.
The statement, IEP, I came from a special ed background. In fact, I'm fighting in college right now. I came in a special ed program right now, and I can tell you right now, from back then
Mm-hmm.
to now, that number one, the education system is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how much you gripe about it, no matter how much you complain about it,
Mhm.
and how much you support it, it is what it is, especially the public education system. And I give it that. I've seen the IEP in progress myself. I've been in the IEP before, and I have to say it's come a long way since what it was before. I love, we live in Williamsburg, so all our IEPs were in Williamsburg area, and they do have the parents come, and they do have the teachers, and I mean, lots of staff in there.
Mhm.
And I praise the program.
Yeah.
It has come a long way, and it's great to be part of it was great to be part of my child's, education and direction. I think when we start nitpicking the tiny things, number one, that's in the spirit, but it kind of takes away from the generalization that the IEP is indeed a wonderful program. It really helped out a lot, and despite the differences of opinions and the views from the old school, when I went to school, my principal happened to be the wife of my dad's best friend, would spank me with a paddle. And that's what I grew up in.
Yeah.
And I understand it, and I am who I am today. Well, today's a different generation.
Yeah.
Today's a different perspective. And the IEP gives that personal touch back to the parents again, to where we are involved in the education system despite the politics of what's going on.
Yep.
We are still in the education system. I know that, and I'm glad to hear that you as a lawyer and future judge are indeed focused on the child first. That's the way it needs to be. That's the whole point of the program itself, for existing. So my praises to you, sir, for what you're doing, and let's keep the IEP going, please.
I appreciate that. Any more questions? All right, so now I'll pivot to online scams and texting and things of that sort. And I kind of preface that when it comes to, well, not preface, but talk about it in regards to like texting from a school setting and parents being alert when a child is receiving certain text messages and also gaming and things of that sort. But I'll start with like the online scams again. So there are a lot of people out here looking to get the quickest buck possible. It's a lot of people who prey, especially on the wiser generation than they do the younger, but the younger still get food as well. They look to pinpoint those individuals and to take all the money that they can. So there's a lot of law out there that protects fraudulent things and things of that sort for individuals who are caught in these type of predicaments. Most common thing that you will see is you receive a text message. From the text message standpoint, you receive a text message. It says that you've been approved for such and such credit card, or a bank saying, "Hey, I froze your account. If you have any information, or if you need more information, contact me immediately." And they have a link. And most of the time you see, "Oh, link, that's credible." If you click on that link, all your data is likely gone. Like all that data that they may have, they can get it. And then you could be a victim of identity theft. Another thing that a lot of things that I see is when it comes to like wire fraud. Wire fraud is older, but however, it's something that some people still do. Like they still wire money and things of that sort. And if you see yourself, if someone says, "Hey, I have $1,000 that I'm about to give you. Here's $1,000. If you click this link, it's yours." So you end up clicking a link, and then the $1,000 that you thought was coming out of your account will come into your account is actually all the money coming out of your account. And here's another issue, and it's more so with the bank. I hope nobody works in the banks. But there's another issue with the banks, but as far as in policy-wise. So, and a lot of things that I've done a training in regards to more consumer law issues, another thing that banks do, like when they send you like your monthly statement, there will be something in their lines, like, and obviously it's very, very small print. If there's any issues, you notice any type of fraud, anything, you have to write a letter and send it to some office that is in Oregon. And like say, for instance, you get the information, you find out that your money has been stolen, or there's some issue with your account. And you call the bank and say, "Hey, somebody stole some money on my account. It wasn't me. I did not authorize this account. Please, place the hold on my account." Now, if the bank doesn't do it, and they, wait maybe, 3 or 4 months after to actually do anything or even to return your money, and then you say, "Oh, well, I advised you and I told you what was happening with my account, and now I'm lost this money. I'm going to sue you for whatever this amount is." If you didn't send that letter to whatever that place was in Oregon, all that the attorney for that particular bank is going to make the argument and say, "Well, they didn't follow the dispute resolution," and the courts. You can never guarantee what the court's going to say, but it's likely that the court is going to dismiss it for that reason, where you're not following that particular process. So I said that to say, when you see things going on with your accounts, or if anyone's texting or sending you emails, for example, sending you a link of whatever the particular site that you have or particular object that you were buying or something like that, if it looks too good to be true, it is too good to be true, and don't click it. Don't do anything with it. Last time I said, call a lawyer, call somebody that you trust. "Hey, I received this email," and also don't click the email. If you see the email, don't click it. Please do not click it, because it still opens yourself up to vulnerability and people still stealing your information if you actually click on the email. So be aware of that as well. Yes, sir.
I know I'm wearing a nurse's uniform, but I'm actually IT. I'm a senior IT.
Oh.
I took certified ethical hacker training, and I saw into the real world. If y'all knew what's going on out there, y'all would definitely be totally unplug everything. But I wanted to mention that about the links.
Yep.
Especially if they're on their mobile device, hackers can now, after clicking on that link, can now access your phone. And they can now
It really is, and it's just really nasty that these people, these scammers out here are out here to do it, but unfortunately they do it all the time, and sometimes if you're not careful, especially when it comes to a banking institution, if you don't read that fine print, if you don't, like, again, the dispute resolution, if you don't do what they say, it could cost you whatever money that you lost. It's a possibility that happens. And, sometimes, there's banks who have these safeguards in place to prevent stuff like that from happening, but if you still don't go by that particular process, it's hard to get the judgment that you want if you were to sue anyone. Did you have a question, ma'am?
Yeah, that just brought up about 3 questions. First question, we had this discussion just a few weeks ago. You're walking through the airport, you got your credit card out, and while it's not under RFID, then somebody can steal. So, Hubby here thinks they have to be real close. I don't think that they have to be that close, but I don't know. So I like RFID. Okay, that's one thing. That's one question. How close? Second question, with the mobile phone, and both of us being a little older, boy, electronics is a pain here, a real pain, real headache, big headache. So we're using our mobile phones a lot. I'm using it for a whole lot of things. And I'm aware that people can hack into stuff, but I still do bills. I do a lot of stuff with the phone. So I understand from several years ago, I was told several years ago, I had some training, that somebody, say, driving past you, and you've got, maybe even past your house, and you've got your computer on, and you left it on, and they might be able to hack into some stuff.
Yeah, wardrobe.
Wardrobe, yeah, is that what it's called?
That's called
Wardrobe.
Wardrobe, that's it.
Wardrobe.
it's called war driving.
War driving, okay. But so what about driving? One day, a few years ago, I transferred some money in a back road I did not want to do, but it was needed at the time, in another state. I transferred some money from my account to this person's account. So anyway, that's brought up that question. And then I like taking pictures of something for proof of stuff. And so every once in a while I go through and I delete them, those kind of pictures. So that brings up that question. But I know once they're deleted, they're not always 100% permanently deleted. And I ain't good enough to,
Yeah.
I could restore for a few, but anyway, that just brings up a few questions.
Let me put out a disclaimer. I didn't mean to come here and, put paranoia in everybody's mind in regards to this scamming or anything like that. Didn't mean to do that. I just wanted y'all to be informed just in case something happens. I didn't want that to happen. But to answer your questions, unfortunately, I dislike saying this, but it's the truth. Your information is easily accessible. Like it is. And so you just have to be mindful and careful of what you do, and understand, where you at. What brings me up to I think it's pretty funny, but also bad at the same time. I recently went to, we had to do ethics training. I went to a conference, and it was at a hotel, and hotel have free Wi-Fi. And so we did an ethics course about, ethical obligations that we have in regards to AI and things of that sort. That was it was technology, so to speak, what the ethics was on this particular conference. And the first thing that they said was, So everybody who clicked into the free Wi-Fi, because all of us do it because it's free Wi-Fi, is the absolute worst decision to ever make, because if you're on the free Wi-Fi, not just like hotels, but like there's anywhere with free Wi-Fi, I would advise don't do it, because that gives anybody access to get your information for like their free Wi-Fi, because it's not protected. So be careful if you go somewhere and you see free Wi-Fi. It's not free, because you are opening yourself up for harm. And again, I'm not here to make everyone scared. It's just a fact that you just have to be careful with doing things.
Something to help you with that, and you're absolutely right. They sit on the router, traffic comes along, they sniff the traffic, they get everything, especially if it's my tech, but I'm not here to scare everybody. VPN.
Yeah.
If you get VPN, they have VPNs for your phones, get VPN for your phone, then you can join that free Wi-Fi. That VPN encrypts your stuff so nobody can get it. I advise you get the paid for VPNs, the one not the free VPNs, paid for, because you get what you pay for. And you can get on the free Wi-Fi, but as a general rule, you were absolutely right. If you're on your unprotected device and free Wi-Fi, that's a perfect hangout for people. The good news is, we're like lemmings. As long as we stay in a group, the hawks can't pick us out. So because of our populational size, odds are you're never going to be targeted for a specific hack job, because one, you have to have something valuable the hacker wants, and no 13-year-old wants anything that you have. But on the same note, they do put snippers, they do put automatic stuff, bots out there to collect your stuff. A VPN on your phone, especially if you live on your phone, is a great way to protect yourself from it. And also, don't leave your personal hotspots on. If you have a personal hotspot on your phone, when you're done using it, turn it off. That's another way that you can get it.
And also I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I hope everybody's got one of these to put in their wallet. It is a wallet shield for your credit cards. If you put that in there, then they can't access your credit cards from your wallet. That's really important.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Number two, if you've got really important transactions, you shouldn't be doing it on your phone. You should go back to your computer. That is far better than doing everything from your phone. I know you're rolling down the road and whatever, but serious, it's far better to use your computer because you've got all kinds of firewalls and everything in that computer that you wouldn't have in just a normal little cell phone.
Yes, ma'am. That's true. I mean, you got to protect yourself at all costs, at all costs. But and also the last part in regards to texting, I did mention, so anyone with younger children or grandchildren or nieces, nephews, cousins, be mindful, because I have younger cousins as well, and they are a different breed of people, different breed of people. And I feel like I'm talking as if I'm like, all the way up in the wiser generation, but I do understand how, certain things and certain actions can cause harm in the future. And I preface that by saying, pay attention and don't, go overboard with these younger generation, but pay attention to the children when it comes to like these electronic devices, and more specifically when it comes to gaming, when it comes to any type of online chats, any type of social media accounts, anything of that nature. Pay attention, because there's a lot of individuals who prey on the younger generation. Like they are prey on them. And there's laws that protects, issues like that. Like, there's sexting laws. There's obscene videos or insane dissemination of communications, that laws to protect if something like that were to occur. So pay attention to those particular issues when your children or whoever you may know are doing these gamings or on social media, because these people are very sneaky, and if you're not careful, they can end up getting that particular loved one that you don't want happening. And also in a school setting, I'm gonna get to you in just 1 second. There, in a school setting, it's particularly important because sometimes, kids not thinking, they're sending obscene videos, obscene pictures to their friends, thinking it's funny or things of that sort. They open themselves liable for, especially if it gets out, school administration's involved. They have a duty to, follow or do an investigation, especially if it harms a particular student. They have their own policies and procedures that could open them up to some type of law and charge, and you don't want your child to go through, the JD or Juvenile Domestic Relations Court and going through that process, because even if you're not the one that sent it, you could be still liable for a charge. I've had issues in regards to that, and it's issues in regards to like advising individuals of, what the ramifications are, and what is going on because such and such has happened. So just be mindful, because people are sneaky, and there's an older generation, and even younger, they just don't know, and I guess we're here to protect them and know that there are laws out here to protect them, but you also got to make sure that you watch out for it as well to protect our loved ones. Yes, sir.
I have a question about scams. A while back, about a month ago, I got a phone call from an organization that claimed to be with police, the police association. Can you support the police association? I said yes, and I donated. The next day, I got a call from the fire department association. I said yes, and I donated. The next day, I got another call from another police equipment this time. And then the next day I got fire equipment, then I got breast cancer, and then it's been going on now steadily every day since then. Even today, it's still going on. Any advice on particulars of what I can do besides?
Don't do it.
Besides,
Easy as answer.
besides going to don'tcallme.gov, is there something else that I can do to get my number? Because I know if my phone number has been sold to other companies, I got that. It's part of it's how junk mail finds you.
Change your number.
Block it, and that's the first answer, right? To block it. But then they call on another phone. Then they call on another. They got whole call centers. And it's always a different organization, and they know my name, and they know everything. And I block them. I go put them on gov.gov, block them. Is there anything else that I can do to get my name off out of these scams or real things? I don't have money enough to support the name.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand.
Don't answer them, don't answer it. If you don't know the number, don't answer your phone if you don't know if they're, I always do it this way, a good rule of thumb, if I see a number comes across my phone, I don't know who it is, I don't answer. And if they really are gonna be legit, they'll leave me a voicemail, okay? And that voicemail will allow me the opportunity to go ahead and check them out before I call back.
Correct. In my profession, that's usually when they call. A lot of my the staff will call me on my phone, and I don't have everybody's phone number. So I'll see a phone number that's in the Virginia area code, and it could be one of them. So I'm kind of stuck on that one. But after hours, even after hours, if I'm working. But that's unfortunately not viable for me in my profession. I wish I could.
And maybe have your coworkers like text you, let you know, hey, I'm calling you from this number.
I've got,
But just like Officer Young says, just, be careful and try your best. Like, I can't tell you exactly what to do, but, maybe checking to see who's calling you, maybe I know people who changes their number every 6 months, things like that, maybe.
I
Can,
usually Google the number and
Yeah.
it'll come back with whoever it is. But I'm just curious if I can get my name off the junk list.
I'm not sure how to do that, to be quite frank, so I can't tell you exactly what to do in that.
Learn, you can be a judge real fast.
All right, gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm in the middle of my physics class, teaching physics.
Ooh.
And I can't spell, so don't worry about that. But, people pull out their phones. Am I allowed to take their phones to the principal's office, right?
Mhm.
I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah, so that's a school policy. Like, that's a school policy. Yep.
And that their parents have to pick them up,
Yeah,
right?
that's perfectly fine. If the school says that, hey, you can't have any cell phones or on your persons at all,
Well, see, it's important.
yeah,
I spent all this time, hours in preparation for that class.
yeah,
And I love teaching school. Of course, I've been out a long time, but I love teaching school, and I want them to understand
yeah,
what I've got, you know, and I want them to put down that phone because I want them to talk to me.
yeah, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. That's a kid probably just being a kid or a student being a student. But yeah, if a school has rules in regards to cell phone use, that's perfectly fine because that's their policy. There's nothing preventing the school from doing that.
Right. It might be that we might need to have you back again. You know, 'cause this is
Yeah.
kinda running on,
Yeah,
yeah.
Another thing people can do with emails is when you get one in, look at the address it's coming from.
yeah,
Make sure it makes sense to you. And if it's got a dot and then two letters after it, like MX, that would be it's coming out of Mexico. If you don't know anybody in Mexico, chances are that's not something you want to look at.
yes, sir. And last point with the emails, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot to mention, with emails, pay very close attention to the actual email because it could be like, so my email is Taekwon K, that's TAEQUANK at lesivo.org. That particular hacker could put TAEEQUANK, my same email address, but just one letter off. And you thinking, like, if you email a person, 100 times a week, or you email them frequently, oh, that's just them. Like, oh, that's their email, without thinking, because our minds, you just, fixated on the particular email. You know what that email is. But if you don't look at it, particularly close, that's another way that scammers can get a lot of people. Because even our organization, sometimes we get those spam emails, and we be emailing attorneys, and we know that, that particular attorney, but it's actually someone who is trying to disguise themselves as that particular attorney. And luckily we have, we've been trained a lot to recognize those type of emails and pay attention, because that's ethical issues that we could face if we don't adhere to them. But just pay close attention to emails as well. Even if it's someone that you do it frequently or email frequently, pay attention to those emails. Any more questions? Well, thank you again for having me again here. It's been a pleasure presenting before you all, and hope everyone has a safe holidays. Don't eat too much, because I know I will. And Merry Christmas as well.